Welcome. I'm Catherine Hadro, and this is EWTN Pro-Life Weekly.
The U.S. Catholic bishops choose their next leader in the fight to protect life. We talked to Archbishop William Lori, the newest pro-life committee chair of the USCCB. The power of prayer, a successful prayer campaign outside abortion facilities to save the lives of the unborn, announces a year-round expansion. And all eyes on the critical Georgia Senate runoff. One candidate, a man of the cloth, claims he can reconcile his pro-abortion politics with his faith. Pro-life voters are watching.
The U.S. bishops have elected Archbishop William Lori of Baltimore to be the next pro-life committee chairman.
Finally, the Committee on Pro-Life Activities, Archbishop Samuel J. Aquila with 102 votes, Archbishop William E. Lori with 139 votes. Archbishop William Lori is elected as the chairman-elect of the Committee on Pro-Life Activities. Congratulations, Archbishop Lori.
That was the U.S. Bishop's General Secretary, Monsignor Brian Bransfield, announcing the committee results at the Bishop's General Assembly mid-November. Because the meeting took place virtually, the bishops voted on committee chairs ahead of time via paper ballot. Archbishop Lori will take on his new pro-life role in November 2021. Joining us now on Skype is Archbishop William Lori, the chairman-elect of the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops Pro-Life Committee. Your Excellency, welcome. You've been a member of the Committee on Pro-Life Activities since 2001, I believe. Starting in November, you will lead the committee. What do you see as your top pro-life priority?
I believe, well, first of all, thank you very much for having me on this program. I think that the priority of the Pro-Life Committee always remains the same, and it's to teach and bear witness convincingly to the inviolable dignity of human life from the moment of conception until natural death. It's to promote laws and policies and ministries that protect and promote the dignity of human life and also the common good of society. It's also to help dioceses and parishes and pro-life groups to engage in prayer, in advocacy, and preaching and teaching and instruction about the dignity of human life. So it's a big agenda. It's but the overriding priority is to promote and cherish and protect human life from conception to natural death.
It's looking all the more certain it will be Joe Biden inaugurated U.S. president next month. Your Excellency, what challenges or opportunities do you anticipate facing during his administration as you serve your 3-year term as pro-life chair?
Well, you know, whenever there is a change of administration, there are opportunities and there are challenges, as you rightly remark. I think that we would want to adopt, or perhaps better, to continue a stance of constructive engagement. We would certainly search for all the common ground that is possible. We'd look for it wherever it might exist. And there would be some areas in terms of, for example, immigration and things of that nature. But we would also need to recognize, quite honestly, where there were areas of disagreement. But we would always want to keep the lines of communication open. We would want to distinguish and prioritize what the issues would be. And we would come at this dialogue not merely as a policy advocacy group, but the church comes at it, first of all, as a community of faith and worship and service. And we come at this dialogue as a community spread across the country that actually works to protect and promote human life. So we're not just talkers, we're doers. And so I think that is an important thing to recognize. We're not merely advocating, we are in the thick of the struggle to promote and protect human life.
Are there any additional details you can share about the working group on Biden that Archbishop Gomez announced at the end of the U.S. Bishops meeting?
Probably not at this point. I was very glad that Archbishop Gomez made that decision, and looking at the roster of those who were appointed to the committee, I would say it is exceptionally well-equipped for the work that it's been given to do. But it's my understanding that the working group is really getting started just now on its work. And so I don't have any further details beyond that.
I understand the U.S. bishops do view abortion as the preeminent pro-life issue. What other issues do you believe fall under the pro-life umbrella, and is racism included in that?
It's a great question, but may I say a word about why it is preeminent? I think sometimes that is misunderstood. It is indeed the preeminent issue for us, but it's not because we are simply towing some ideological line or adopting a certain brand of politics. I think the preeminence of the issue is in direct proportion to the vulnerability of the unborn, to the very fact that they have no one to speak for them, to the very fact that they are utterly defenseless. That's why the level of claim on our consciences rises. And that's why, without losing sight of any of the other people who are vulnerable and wounded in our society, we must nonetheless pay special attention, I think, to the unborn.
Absolutely.
So I really want to make that pretty clear. But that said, we got to think about the physician-assisted suicide, conscience protections. We have to think about adoption and foster care, special concern for women in crisis pregnancies.
Absolutely. And I look forward to many future conversations with you. Congratulations on being elected the next pro-life chair. Archbishop William Lori of Baltimore, thank you.
Thank you.
Joining us now is Prudence Robertson, Communications Associate for the Susan B. Anthony List. Prudence, welcome back. Projected President Biden would be the second U.S. Catholic president. As a Catholic yourself and as a very active, engaged member in the pro-life movement, what's your reaction to that?
Well, you know, Catherine, I think Lou Holtz during the RNC this year said it best. Joe Biden is Catholic in name only. And it's so important that Catholics everywhere understand his extreme views on abortion. He flip-flopped on the Hyde Amendment, which protects Catholics and pro-life Americans everywhere from having to fund abortion through taxpayer dollars. He, supports no limits on abortion, and he chose Kamala Harris as his vice president. This woman, in her presidential run, said that she would suspend any pro-life laws that have already been passed in the states, that they would go to her Justice Department, and that she would determine whether or not they were constitutional before they could go into effect. I mean, talk about abuse of power. She has also attacked David Daleiden, a citizen journalist who uncovered that Planned Parenthood was buying and selling baby body parts. She attacked him through the legal system in California, and it's clear that she would work with Joe Biden to codify Roe versus Wade into law. And that's why it's so important, just as an aside, these Georgia Senate races, we have to win them because we must preserve the pro-life Senate majority, and we cannot allow Kamala Harris to be that tie-breaking Senate vote.
What action do you and the Susan B. Anthony list hope to see from the U.S. bishops when it comes to Biden and his public support for abortion and his abortion agenda?
It's very simple. Abortion is the killing of an innocent unborn child, and we expect bishops to stand firm in making clear that Joe Biden's belief and support for abortion are simply incompatible with Catholicism and what our catechism teaches us, which is that the pro-life issue should be the first in Catholics' minds. Unborn children, if they're not given the right to life, won't have the chance to exercise any other rights that are given to them in the Constitution. And the laity can also play a huge role in this. It's so important that we stand up and speak for the truth when it comes to protecting unborn life, that we, call on our bishops to be vocal on this issue, and our parish priests as well. We need to speak the truth in love, because that is our role as members of the body of Christ.
I want to get your reaction to two possible cabinet picks. New Mexico Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham being eyed for HHS Secretary. Your reaction?
Yes, she is no less than an abortion extremist, and she would certainly work with Joe Biden to strip away all of the progress that Secretary Azar and President Trump have made together in the last 4 years. As governor of New Mexico, she supported drastic New York-style legislation that would enshrine abortion rights in their state, and 8 Democrats in the New Mexico legislature even stood up against this legislation, and that just goes to show how extreme it is. She clearly would, just be bad news for us, and we are very concerned.
And Prudence, your quick reaction to Neera Tanden. She's being eyed as the head of the Office of Management and Budget.
Yes, it's clearly a red flag to us. She's the president of the Center of American Progress, which is a group that works with Planned Parenthood to promote abortion rights, and it really is a shame that Joe Biden would appoint women like this to his cabinet, because with 18 new pro-life women in the House, it's clear to see that the American people are embracing pro-life women and choosing them to lead in Washington, not pro-abortion extremists.
And Planned Parenthood is celebrating Neera Tanden, which is always a red flag probably for us.
That's right.
Prudence Robertson, thank you so much.
Thanks, Catherine.
All 6 states where President Donald Trump contested defeat have certified their election results, making it more clear that it will be Joe Biden inaugurated U.S. president next month. The Biden-Harris ticket campaigned on what's viewed as the most radical pro-abortion agenda, vowing to repeal the Hyde Amendment, preserve Roe v. Wade, and overturn many of Trump's pro-life accomplishments. As we prepare for the incoming administration, we turn to this week's call to action. Go to ProLifeWeekly.com and sign our pledge that you will stand against pro-abortion extremism from a projected Biden-Harris administration. Viewed as the most radical pro-abortion administration in our nation's history, we in the pro-life movement need to be prepared to counter extreme abortion agenda items that come from a declared Biden presidency. Pro-lifers across the country should be ready to speak up for life as abortion agenda items begin to roll out. We need to be more engaged than ever to save as many lives as possible when a Biden-Harris administration begins. Sign our pledge that you will stand up against their abortion extremism by going to ProLifeWeekly.com. Expansion news this week from a pro-life group that prays to save the unborn and close abortion facilities. 40 Days for Life says beginning next month, its twice-a-year peaceful prayer campaigns will expand to 365 days a year. Since its founding in 2007, 40 Days for Life tells us its prayer vigils have saved nearly 18,000 unborn children, contributed to the closing of more than 100 abortion facilities, and helped more than 200 workers leave the abortion industry. Now, the hope is to make even more progress year-round. To tell us more, we're joined on Skype by Shawn Carney, President and CEO of 40 Days for Life. Shawn, welcome back. What is 40 Days for Life 365? Explain this exciting announcement.
Well, we are excited about that. And basically, it's an elite program to take some of our best locations. Many of these cities have been asking for this, and give them the training to take their 40 Days for Life campaign, which all of them have to be doing at least 2 campaigns a year, fall and the Lent campaign, and expanding it to every business hour that their abortion facility is open. And so we're going to go year-round with many of these vigils. 365 is now available as people apply to lead 40 Days for Life campaigns in 2021. We're very excited about this. We spent a lot of time and a lot of money on it the last few years, testing it, perfecting it, getting the technology in place to have a year-round online scheduling tool, and to make elite campaigns where we are seeing, huge results, to transition them into being a year-round presence, which is devastating for the abortion industry and is great at saving babies. We tested this in 2020, a crazy year to test out a new program, but it had great results in 2020, and so we are ready to launch it.
And Shawn, 40 is a very significant biblical number. Will you still have the 40-day vigils as you do for every Lent, for example? And how will those differ from these everyday campaigns? Absolutely.
Well, 40 Days for Life 365 is for only really good 40 Days for Life campaigns. And it's hard to qualify. It's going to be a small percentage of our campaigns starting off, because you have to commit to doing 2 40 Days for Life campaigns every single year. So no, it doesn't replace it. It only enhances it and expands it. So you have to do 2 40 Days for Life campaigns every year. You have to have your vigil hours covered during those campaigns, whether it's 12 hours a day or 24 hours a day, which about half our campaigns are 24 hours a day. And so 365 will expand those campaigns to the business hours throughout the rest of the year. And the abortion industry always looks forward to day 40. And in many locations, we're not able to continue to go on, but we can in certain places. And we're very excited, and the applications have been pouring in, and some campaigns qualify, many don't at this point. But we're going to see the numbers of saved babies go through the roof, and we're going to see more abortion facilities close.
Wow. Shawn, something I wanted to ask you, we're starting to see another uptick in COVID cases. How have you and your team observed the coronavirus really impacting the abortion industry and the number of abortions this year?
Well, yeah, I was part of that uptick, too. I got COVID recently and just overcame it. And so it was better. Part of the... I was part of the numbers going up with all of my travels, but it's been good, sadly, for the abortion industry's bottom line. Abortions go up when fear goes up and when uncertainty goes up. And 2020 was on overload for fear and uncertainty. And that's when you see abortion numbers go up. We see it during hurricanes. We see it during national tragedies, but certainly during a pandemic. And the abortion industry in many states being deemed essential, which is ludicrous. And so we've seen the abortion numbers go up in 2020 in many parts of the country. We'll have our final numbers of the abortion rate for the United States, a rate that has been going down, had its largest drop in 2019. But 2020, we've seen the abortion industry show who they are also. And that's been a positive, which is Planned Parenthood, for instance, cut out any other service at many of their locations except abortion. And so it's something that is a call to action. There's a lot of uncertainty in our country. And that's one of the reasons, we had planned to launch 40 Days for Life 365 in 2020. That was just part of our schedule before everyone knew this would be an insane year. But thank God that we were ready and that we're doing it. And that's why the response has been so great, because we have got to get to the grassroots in America. There's a lot of good going on in the grassroots in the pro-life movement.
Absolutely.
And so, we have to make a resolution in 2021 to do more than we've ever done before.
It sounds like we need your work more than ever. Shawn Carney, 40 Days for Life. I'm glad you're feeling better, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Keep up the great work.
Coming up, a high-profile politician says his life as a minister of the Lord does not stand in conflict with his pro-abortion position. I'll speak out when we return. And teaching children about life in the womb. How and when is the best time to introduce this concept to little ears? The authors of a new children's book join us for this week's ProLife Focus, just ahead. Welcome back to EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. I'm Catherine Hadro. A candidate in the upcoming Georgia Senate special elections claims his support for abortion is consistent with his Christian faith. That is this week's Speak Out segment. Raphael Warnock is the Democrat candidate competing against Kelly Loeffler for a Georgia Senate seat. He is also a Baptist pastor. Reverend Warnock has been senior pastor at Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta for 15 years, the former pulpit of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Earlier in the campaign season, Warnock was a guest on the podcast Mission Impossible. Take a listen to how the Senate candidate answered when WGAU host Tim Bryant asked Warnock how his support for abortion squares with being a Christian minister.
I believe that health care is a human right. And I believe that it is something that the richest nation in the world provides for its citizens. And for me, reproductive justice is consistent with my commitment to that. I believe unequivocally in a woman's right to choose, and that the decision is something that we don't want government engaged in. But that's between her and her doctor and her minister.
Woe to those who call evil good and good evil. Reverend Warnock, as a Christian pastor, has a responsibility to speak truth and uphold the values of the faith. Scripture, which we as Catholics share with our Baptist brothers and sisters, contains many verses about life in the womb. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. And there's, behold, children are a gift of the Lord. The fruit of the womb is a reward. And also, when Elizabeth heard Mary's greeting, the baby leaped in her womb. This Advent season, let us pray that Reverend Warnock, who is running for an important Georgia Senate seat, will remember that our Savior, whom he preaches about, came to us first as a child in his mother's womb. Knowing when and how to teach kids the truth about life in the womb may seem like a daunting task, but for this week's ProLife Focus, one new children's book is doing just that. When You Became You is a new book featuring illustrations and the biological science of human embryology to introduce the continuum of human life. It takes children on a scientific journey through the stages of a human being's life. The book was released in November. Joining us now on Skype are the authors of When You Became You, Brooke, Stanton, and Christiane West. Congratulations on the launch of your book. It is beautifully illustrated. Brooke, this book educates on the continuum of life. Can you explain that scientific reality and why that's so important to teach children?
Sure. Thank you, Catherine. When You Became You, again, is a scientifically accurate celebration of humankind and of our shared humanity in terms of human development. It teaches elementary school children when a human life starts, and it also introduces them to another amazing, objective scientific fact called the continuum of human life. Using simple, scientifically accurate language and beautiful, engaging illustrations, the continuum of human life is so important because it states that a human being is the same whole, individual, and living human organism throughout all of the various stages of human development, from the very beginning of one's biological existence as a human being until death. And considering human sexual reproduction, science knows that all human beings begin to exist at fertilization. This means that you have always been a human being, Catherine, an actual human being with a truly human nature. You are never just a bunch of cells or just a potential human being. It means that science knows a human embryo is a human being, a human fetus is a human being, a human infant is a human being, and on. Scientifically, there is no such thing as a human non-person.
Right.
This is awesome, important science, and it's not above anyone's pay grade. Everyone can and should know, even elementary school children.
Absolutely. Christiane, you and Brooke are founder and co-founder of Contend Projects, a secular, nonpartisan science education nonprofit. But I understand you two would like to see this book in every Catholic school science classroom. Why is that?
Well, as you know, Catherine, unfortunately, we have an education fail in this country. Almost 60% of American adults do not know that a fetus is an actual human being. And that statistic sadly includes Catholics. And that's manifest in Catholic views on abortion. Only about 42% of American Catholics think that abortion should be outlawed in all or most cases. So we have a problem, but we also have an opportunity to solve for that. And it starts in elementary schools. Elementary schools are culture makers. And so if we can teach this science early on, we can have an impact on the culture. But we can also inoculate our children against the false science and the false information that they will hear around them. And it's a lot easier to do that now while they're still young than to try to undo that damage later on when they're in high school and they've been exposed to all kinds of false information. But we also think it's particularly important in Catholic schools because what we found is that a lot of Catholic schools talk about the start of a human life in religion and ethics classes. And that's very good. But unfortunately, that can also lead to the belief that this is a personal moral question as opposed to a resolved scientific fact that's absolutely undeniable. And you would have a very different discussion in your religion class if you taught this in your biology class and if it was students were well grounded in this science. So we definitely think all Catholic schools should have this in their libraries and that Catholic parents should be reading this to their children and engaging in this discussion and celebrating this amazing science.
Absolutely, and more information at whenyoubecameyou.org. Congratulations again on the launch of your book.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that does it for this edition of EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. Until next time, we'd love to hear from you. Find us on social media at EWTN Pro-Life on all social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We're there. You can also send us a message by emailing prolifeweekly@ewtn.com. We love to hear from you. Remember, life is a gift. Your life is a gift. God bless.